The world that was once full of life was now a wasteland. The powerful alien race known as the Exoloth had descended upon Earth like a storm, leaving nothing but destruction in their wake. Cities, once bustling with life, now lay in ruins, their towering structures reduced to rubble. The sky, once a bright blue, was now dark and filled with the ominous sounds of alien ships patrolling the skies. Billions of humans had perished in the chaos. The Exoloth, with their advanced technology and overwhelming forces, believed they had wiped humanity off the map. They thought Earth had fallen, and that there would be no one left to fight back. But in the shadows, beneath the devastated cities, humanity's last hope still flickered. A small group of survivors had managed to escape the massacre. They were not soldiers, not warriors. They were ordinary men and women, farmers, scientists, and teachers, people who had been thrown together by fate. They had taken refuge deep underground, in the remains of old bunkers and forgotten tunnels. For years, they had kept to themselves, hiding from the alien invaders. They lived off what little they could scavenge, staying out of sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. But what the Exoloth didn't know was that these survivors were not just hiding, they were preparing. They were gathering weapons, training in secret, and learning everything they could about their enemies. They had one goal in mind: revenge. Sarah, the leader of this small group, stood at the front of their underground hideout, staring at the wall of maps and plans they had created. She was exhausted, but her eyes burned with determination. The Exoloth had taken everything from her: her family, her home, her future. But they had made a grave mistake. They had underestimated humanity. "We can't stay hidden forever," Sarah said to the group, her voice firm but full of urgency. "We've survived this long for a reason, and it's time we make them pay for what they've done." Her words ignited something inside the others. They had lived in fear for too long, but now they had the means to fight back. They had weapons, they had knowledge, and they had one thing the Exoloth didn't: a burning desire for revenge. Sarah's group wasn't the only one left. There were other pockets of survivors scattered across the world. Slowly, they began to unite, creating a force much larger than the Exoloth had anticipated. These survivors weren't just fighting to survive, they were fighting to take back what was theirs. The first attack was small, just a handful of fighters making their way into an alien supply depot. The Exolo laughed at first, thinking this was just another desperate human effort. They didn't take it seriously. But when the survivors successfully destroyed the depot and left behind nothing but wreckage, the Exoloth began to realize something: humanity wasn't done yet. They were far from being the easy prey the aliens thought they were. The survivors had more tricks up their sleeves than the invaders had accounted for. The small, scattered groups of humans, united by a common cause, began launching more attacks. Each strike, no matter how small, sent a powerful message: humanity was alive, and they were fighting back. As the days passed, the Exoloth's confidence started to crumble. They had believed the humans were weak, nothing more than a dying species clinging to life. But now they had to face a terrifying truth: the humans were still out there, and they were getting stronger. The Exoloth's once unshakable hold on Earth was beginning to slip. The survivors had gained new allies and found new weapons hidden in the world's forgotten corners. The humans had taken back old cities, rebuilding strongholds in places the Exoloth thought were long lost. The fight was just beginning, and the Exoloth were starting to realize that they might have underestimated humanity. In the heart of the enemy's command center, the alien leaders met in secret, scrambling to understand the growing resistance. "What are they doing?" one of them asked, his voice full of fear. "How are they still alive?" The other commanders exchanged worried looks. The humans were not gone. They had been planning, building, and now they were rising up against the invaders. The war was not over. It was just starting. Back in the hidden human base, Sarah stood by the entrance, staring at the sky above. She knew the fight ahead would be brutal, and victory was far from certain. But one thing was clear: the Exoloth had made a mistake. They had thought humanity was extinct. They had thought the war was already won, but they were wrong. The survivors had only been preparing for war, and now they were ready to take Earth back. As Sarah's rebellion gained momentum, The Exaloth Empire seemed more powerful than ever. But Sarah wasn't just fighting with weapons, she was fighting with knowledge. She knew that to defeat the invaders, she needed more than just small raids and guerrilla tactics. Humanity needed something powerful, something that could turn the tide of the war. It was in the depths of the earth, in a long-forgotten underground city, that Sarah and her team uncovered it, an ancient human weapon, buried for centuries, untouched by time or alien hands. This weapon was like nothing the Exaloth had ever seen. It wasn't just a machine, but a force capable of changing the entire battlefield. The moment Sarah laid eyes on it, she knew it held the power to end the war. But the weapon was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It wasn't just about strength or firepower. It was something more, something beyond their understanding. The team gathered around, unsure of what they had found. This isn't just a weapon," Sarah whispered. "It's a force of nature. We don't even know what it can do." The fear was palpable. The Exaloth had weapons of mass destruction, and they had technology that could obliterate entire cities. But this was different. This was ancient. This was human. But with such power came a dangerous question. Could they control it? Could humanity wield this weapon without it consuming them all? The team, though uncertain, knew they had no choice. They had come this far, and the war couldn't be won by playing it safe. Sarah made the decision. They would use it no matter the cost. With the ancient weapon in their hands, Sarah led the charge. It was time to show the Exaloth that humanity was no longer afraid. The weapon was activated, and instantly, a strange energy filled the air. It hummed with a power so intense, it felt as though the earth itself was alive, pulsing with the energy of ancient times. The humans struck first, launching a surprise assault on a major Exaloth stronghold. The invaders had no idea what hit them. The weapon didn't just fire, no, it bent reality itself. It warped the very environment, sending shockwaves through the enemy's lines. Buildings shattered, alien ships plummeted from the sky, and the ground itself trembled beneath the weight of the weapon's force. The Exaloth, once so sure of their victory, scrambled to regroup. They were shocked, disoriented. The humans were no longer the weak, desperate survivors they had once been. Now, they were a force to be reckoned with. The humans fought harder, smarter, using the environment to their advantage. They adapted quickly, moving with precision and deadly accuracy. The weapon gave them the strength they needed, but it was more than just power, it was a symbol. It was a message to the Exaloth. Humanity would not go quietly into the night. They would rise, and they would fight until the very end. As the battle raged on, the Exaloth began to regroup. They were shaken, but not defeated. They knew one thing for certain: the humans had unlocked something far more dangerous than they had imagined. In their hidden command center, the Exaloth's leaders convened. They had lost several key strongholds, and the humans were becoming more bold, more confident with each strike. "What is this power?" one of the Exaloth generals demanded. "How are they using it?" One of the highest-ranking officials, a cold and calculating figure, looked grim. "The weapon they've unlocked. It's not just a tool. It's something else. If they can control it, they'll have the strength to wipe us out. But if it controls them, then—" He trailed off, the fear evident in his eyes. "We may be looking at the end of everything." The Exaloth had always believed that Earth was nothing more than a dying planet, one they could crush and move on from. But now, with this ancient weapon in the hands of humans, they were forced to face a terrifying reality. The tables had turned. The humans had something they couldn't even comprehend. And what's worse, they had no idea how the weapon would affect the humans in the long run. Could they control it? Or would it destroy them from within? Sarah, back in her base, looked out over the battlefield. The first victory felt sweet, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The weapon had given them an edge, but at what cost? Was she putting humanity's future in jeopardy by using it? The Exaloth were planning their next move. The counterattack was coming. And with the power of the past in their hands, the humans were about to face the most dangerous decision of all: use the weapon to win, or risk losing everything. The war had raged on for years, but humanity was finally on the verge of winning. The Exaloth Empire, once a towering force, was crumbling under the weight of humanity's unrelenting resistance. Sarah, the fearless leader of the human survivors, could see the end in sight. But just as victory seemed within reach, a discovery would shake everything she thought she knew. In the middle of their preparation for the final assault on the Exolith Central Command, Sarah received an unexpected visitor. It was Varnak, a high-ranking Exolith general who'd been captured during one of the earlier skirmishes. Sarah had assumed he was just another enemy, another soldier to deal with. But when Varnak spoke, the truth stunned her. "I've been helping you," he said, his tone cold but sincere. "The invasion of Earth was never just a random attack. There's a much bigger plan unfolding, one that involves not just your world, but the entire galaxy. And you humans. You are the key to stopping it." Sarah struggled to process his words. How could this general, one of the leaders of the Exoloth Empire, be helping humanity? What did he want? What was his game? Varnak continued, his voice low and full of secret knowledge. "The Exoloth aren't the true power behind this war. We are just pawns in a much larger game. There are forces out there, ancient forces, who wish to control everything. The Exoloth were merely their tools to bring about this galaxy-wide domination. But I want no part in that. I've seen enough to know that your species is more capable of stopping this than we ever could." Sarah's mind raced. A greater power controlling the Exoloth? It sounded impossible. But she had seen enough in this war to know that anything was possible. With Varnak's help, humanity might finally have the chance to turn the tide, but at what cost? Varnak's revelations were enough to shake Sarah to her core. But she had no time to dwell on the shocking truth. The war was far from over, and humanity had to strike while they had the chance. With Varnak's inside knowledge, Sarah and her team launched a daring mission to destroy the Exoloth Central Command, a massive fortress deep within the heart of the alien empire. It was a risky move, one that could change the course of the entire war. But Sarah knew it was their best shot at ending this conflict once and for all. As they moved closer to their target, the intensity of the mission grew. The Exoloth were ready for them. A massive alien force stood between them and the Central Command, determined to stop them at all costs. But with Varnak's guidance, they fought through waves of enemy troops, taking down soldiers and machines with deadly precision. Their teamwork was flawless, and the weaponry they had salvaged from the alien invaders gave them an edge they had never had before. As Sarah reached the heart of the Exoloth's command, the final pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. Varnak had been right. The Exoloth were mere pawns. The true force behind this invasion was something far more terrifying, an ancient and powerful race who had been manipulating the galaxy for centuries. The war was never about Earth. It was always about gaining control of the galaxy itself. Sarah's mind reeled. How had the Exoloth been duped into believing they were the victors? How had they been so easily used? And most importantly, why were humans the key to stopping this greater threat? As Sarah and her team closed in on the final battle, a terrifying thought crossed her mind. What if destroying the Exoloth only made things worse? What if the true enemy, the ancient race behind it all, was far more powerful and dangerous than anything they had ever encountered? Varnak had been clear. The Exoloth were not the true enemy. They were simply the means to an end. But destroying the Exoloth meant risking everything. If Sarah and her team succeeded, they would have dealt a deadly blow to the larger plan. But if they failed, or if they pushed too hard, they might provoke a galaxy-wide war, one that humanity might not survive. As Sarah stood on the precipice of the final battle, the weight of the decision bore down on her. Did they have what it took to destroy the Exoloth, knowing that doing so might trigger the larger conflict? Or should they seek a way to stop the true enemy, the ones pulling the strings from the shadows? The final choice would not be easy, and it would shape the future of humanity and the galaxy forever. The story now hangs on a knife's edge, with Sarah facing the ultimate dilemma. Will she destroy the Exoloth and risk everything for a chance at victory? Or will she take a different path, one that could save humanity but at a far greater cost? The final battle is about to begin. The fate of the galaxy depends on her choice. The day of reckoning had arrived. Sarah, with the full might of the human resistance at her side, led humanity's final assault against the Exaloth Empire. It was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a battle for the future of the galaxy. The Exaloth, once thought to be an unbeatable force, had underestimated the power of humanity's will to survive. The war was not confined to Earth anymore. The fight raged in space as human and Exaloth fleets collided in the stars above. The Exaloth unleashed everything they had: massive battleships, terrifying energy weapons, and deadly shock troops. But the humans, fueled by their desire for vengeance and survival, fought back with unmatched tenacity. They used everything they had: advanced human technology, the ancient weapon from their past, and the environment itself, to strike devastating blows against their enemies. On Earth, the battle was no less fierce. Sarah's forces stormed the Exaloth strongholds, using guerrilla tactics and the element of surprise. The cityscapes that had once been silent and destroyed now echoed with the sounds of war. Humans had become masters of their own fate, fighting not just for their survival, but for the hope of a new world. The Exaloth were faltering. Their empire, once so strong, was crumbling beneath the weight of humanity's resolve. But even as victory seemed near, Sarah knew this war wasn't just about defeating the Exaloth. The real battle was still ahead. The ancient race that had been watching humanity from the shadows was ready to step into the light. I in the heart of the final battle. As Sarah's forces pushed deeper into the Exaloth stronghold, she faced the truth she had been dreading. As her team breached the heavily fortified command center, they encountered not just the Exaloth's leaders, but a far more dangerous presence: the ancient race that had been manipulating events for centuries. Sarah stood face to face with the leader of this ancient race, a being whose power and wisdom surpassed anything the humans had ever known. With a voice like thunder, the leader revealed the shocking truth: humanity had never been meant to survive this long. The ancient race had watched over humanity for millennia, waiting for the moment when the humans would either fall or rise. They had seeded Earth with life and had patiently waited to see what would become of this resilient species. "We never expected you to fight this hard," the leader said, his voice filled with a mix of admiration and disbelief. "You were meant to fail, to be wiped from existence by the Exaloth, but you refused to die. That is something we did not foresee." Sarah felt a cold shiver run down her spine. The truth was more devastating than any weapon. Humanity had been a pawn in a cosmic game, and the odds had always been stacked against them. But they had beaten the odds. The humans had defied not only the Exaloth, but the very forces that had designed their destruction. The leader's revelation was just the beginning of the shock to come. As Sarah and her team pressed forward, the ancient race, revealed to be far more powerful than the Exaloth, had been waiting for the right moment to make their move. In a final epic confrontation, Sarah and the remaining leaders of humanity's rebellion fought against the ancient race's elite warriors. The battle was unlike anything they had ever faced. The ancient leaders wielded unimaginable power, their abilities far beyond human comprehension. But Sarah's strength, her determination, and her team's unyielding spirit proved to be their greatest weapons. In the heat of the battle, Sarah faced the leader of the ancient race one-on-one. The two clashed in a storm of energy, each struggling for control. "You cannot win," the ancient leader sneered. "The galaxy was always meant to fall under our rule. Your rebellion is nothing but an anomaly, a glitch in the design." But Sarah, driven by the weight of her people's struggle, refused to yield. With one final surge of power, she struck the leader down, shattering the illusion of the ancient race's superiority. The galaxy was no longer theirs to control. The humans had taken back their fate. With the ancient race defeated and the Exaloth in retreat, humanity emerged victorious. Earth, though scarred by war, began to heal. Cities that had once been reduced to rubble began to rebuild, and the world that had been ravaged by an alien invasion was now a symbol of hope and rebirth. But the war had changed humanity. They had fought for their survival, and now they were ready to lead. With the ancient race's control shattered, the galaxy was no longer a place of fear, but a place where humanity could thrive. Sarah stood looking out over the planet, the weight of everything they had fought for settling in her chest. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: humanity was no longer the underdog. They had proven that they could survive, adapt, and conquer. As Earth rebuilt itself, Sarah and her team knew that their struggle was far from over. But they had secured humanity's future. The galaxy was now theirs to shape, and with it, the promise of a new era. The survivors of Earth had not just avenged their fallen, they had created a new future. The galaxy now belonged to humanity,